Greetings everyone and welcome to another week of BlastCast. Of course I am Jarvis and with me as always my bastion of common sense, Lightning Dragon. Well, let's go ahead and get started this week by talking about our Road to 3.0 production updates. Last week they clocked in at 26 and this week we're down to just one critical. Looks like the devs are meeting every day for an official go or no-go status check. So it's very possible that we will be seeing Evo Conti this week. Keep your fingers crossed. I'm really looking forward to getting out there and finding those bugs for you guys. And falling through a planet.
That'll be the first thing you do. Even if you're trying or not, it's the first thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be the first thing that happens. There's just no way around it. Alright, and as always, I like to go ahead and find new YouTubers that talk about Star Citizen, maybe some smaller channels out there that have interesting perspectives. I found a pretty good one this week. It's KyPoorShot. I'll leave a link down in the description below. He doesn't always make videos about Star Citizen, but he has some very interesting perspectives, and you may be interested in checking them out. Alright, so of course we have the X1 concept sale this week. There are three basic models, the baseline, racing, and force. It looks like the two that come with weapons are the baseline and the force. And the force looks like it has a larger weapon on it. Some people describe this vehicle as kind of a... looks like a Star Trek phaser from the side without the handle, and I can kind of see that. That makes sense. But whether or not you aesthetically like the ship, and I actually kind of do, one of the things I've noticed about it in the model is that it's actually, while it's a little bit wider, it's not quite as long. So this means it may actually fit better in certain kinds of ships.
I don't like it, but that's my opinion.
And there you go, the counterpoint.
Well, I mean, if you want the long end thing, it's supposed to. I don't like it. I don't like anything about it. It's very like, it looks brittle. It's like all made out of glass, and it's all like spindly in the back, and while the design looks okay, I don't think it's their best work yet. I look at that and go like, well, with them flip-flopping on their ideas of is glass stronger than steel, which they said originally, because that's the only thing that makes sense, because why would you have all this glass? It's a weak spot. And then you can get pilot killed through glass, which is supposed to be stronger than the armor on your ships. I mean, that's bullcrap. So I look at that and go, someone's gonna pull out one pistol, they're gonna shoot at the cockpit area, you're gonna get shot in the head, and it's gonna be War Thunder. Oh, pilot kill.
You know, when I look at it from the back, there's like talk about the spindly part of it. It reminds me a little bit of the Xi'an Scout. So I wonder, and I don't know for certain, but it'd be interesting if there was some Xi'an technology blended in on this, because it really does have, to some degree, that Xi'an aesthetic. Even more so than, say, the 300 kind of, or the Origin aesthetic. Alright, this week's Around the Verse was mostly about animations and all the work they put into making sure the animations are fluid and that they look natural and that all the NPCs aren't doing the same thing at the same time. So no synchronized sitting and things like that. People will be leaning on tables and all that, sitting at different angles, doing different kind of passive emotes, so that basically it makes the world look more alive. The big takeaway from this, though, one of the things I kind of liked was that there's a kind of an area where it will soft adjust to something that may be, say that an NPC sits down at a table and there's a glass at the table and it's not in exactly the right place. Now a lot of games are just gonna either snap the glass to the person's hand or the hand's gonna, you know, just snap to the glass, but they've actually created a system that allows a little bit of flexibility, so basically it will adjust itself just a little to allow a fluid transition from where it is to where it needs to be. So it doesn't give that jerky kind of feeling you get when you see a lot of animations done in different games. So that was really the most important takeaway out of that. Once again, we're kind of in a drought due to waiting on Gamescom. Well, not Gamescom. Once again, we're kind of
3.0 update.
Yeah, well, 3.0 and also CitizenCon is what I'm trying to say. Alright, so the big editorial comment we want to talk about this week, and I've had some requests about this, and I've also been looking at the forum boards and seeing a lot of discussions about this, so I thought it was worth talking about. Of course, as you know, Star Citizen is moving more into the survival genre. And a lot of people are either pro or against. And a lot of the against is because, you know, that's not what they backed when they backed the game. They weren't looking at micromanaging, that kind of thing. And of course, there's other concerns just in that. A lot of the cons is they're worried that the micromanaging of a survival element would take away too much from other aspects of the gameplay. And there's a lot of valid concerns, and I understand all of them. Now, just personally speaking, I'm somewhat neutral on the subject. I play survival games, I play non-survival games, so I enjoy both. And what I find when it comes to survival games, a lot of it comes down to, well, how frequent or how in-depth the survival elements are. It's a very popular genre. I mean, you have one of the big games right now for survival is, of course, Ark. And that's been big on consoles.
Ark, Combat Evolved. Oh, wait, sorry, that's Halo.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting game. I mean, who doesn't like the idea of training and riding dinosaurs? But, you know, Ark is, it kind of feels like as a genre picks up speed or as it becomes more popular, a lot of game companies out there are trying to get on that bandwagon.
There's actually 2 or maybe even 3 more or less direct copies of that. The Conan's Exiles is very, very similar to Ark, and a new game. I don't want to say it's Black and White because I think that's an old RTS game.
Yeah,
but it's something very, very similar to that. A quick glance on Steam, and I can tell you exactly.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, well, these are the 2 newest ones. The newest one, it's not the same. It's a fantasy setting, which is a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
But while their UI and everything is almost a direct copy of Ark, the direction they're taking the game is a lot more like story based. So it's going to end up as a different game, but like when it first came out, it's basically Ark with magic.
Yeah, and as I said, a lot of game companies are jumping on bandwagons. You have the whole Battlegrounds player unknown thing being copied in GTA, and I even saw on the forum boards today someone was requesting that for since we're going to have all this open space in the ground, that there'd be some sort of Star Marine mode like Battlegrounds player unknown as well.
Please, God, no. That's all I have to say about that. We do not need more arena shooter games.
Yeah. And the big thing about these kind of games, of course, like Ark is, the survival games, they're big also into PvP. And Ark's special, very special trademark is your ability to graphically poop. All the poop forever.
Yeah, that's exactly what everyone wants to do. Exactly.
When you can pick it up, you can play with it, you can plan it. It's a dream come true to all you fecophiliacs out there. So anyway, yeah, and of course I mentioned that because we have toilets in Star Citizen and things like that, and when you have other games we play, like Lightning and I played, and even we're playing today, Empyrion Galactic Survival. In that, of course, you got mining, growing food, space exploration, building of ships, bases, all of it. And of all the games that are out there, since you can get out of your ship and move around in this on a planetary scale, on planet surfaces and things, I think this is probably one of the closest examples you're going to see right now to what Star Citizen's trying to do. Because while there are other games we have that have survival elements that involve space, this is the only one I can think of that has the most in-depth, that gives you space and ground on planets. So
it's the most fleshed out. I mean,
yeah,
you could argue that Space Engineers is better because of just how much blocks are the difference blocks and stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as like the building and how deep the survival part of the game is, hands down, Empyrion is better than that. But you can also be like, oh well, Space Engineers has mods. And yeah, I mean, definitely if you went crazy with the mods, you would very easily match or surpass what Empyrion does. But the problem with Space Engineers is really it's their physics engine.
Yeah, their physics have all sorts of weird wonky issues.
Yeah, it's kind of like this homemade physics engine, and it's kind of... It's good and bad. I mean, in some ways it's amazing and it's great and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it, but at the same time they're like ground stuff. Like if you want to make a ground vehicle that's using wheels and stuff, odds are you're going to break every single one of your wheels, flip over, explode, and you're just going to lose everything. Where in Empyrion, I think at one time they were considering doing wheels, and they did like a test thing of it, and they're like, oh well, it's kind of hard to get them to work how we want them, so for right now we're just going to stick with the hover vehicles, and we're just going to make the hover vehicles better, which they did.
Yeah, and they float on water, so that's one of the things that's really awesome about them.
So a wheeled vehicle would probably just go sploosh right into the water.
Well, Space Invaders doesn't really have water; it just has ice.
It has ice, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a little bit difference in the game there as well. But yeah, Empyrean is one of those games that we played for the last 2 days because we were discussing this topic, and it seemed like a relevant thing to play while we were discussing it. And one of the things that comes up on this, and something that even made a change, there's another space game that, while it doesn't have planets, but it's called Helion. And a lot of people, including myself, look at it as like they're trying to do some of what Star Citizen wants to do, of course, without the planets and whatnot. But the survival elements got too entailed, they got too tedious, and they backed down a bit over recent patches and brought some of the things down a little bit because players are spending all their time just trying to keep things working. And it's a very delicate balance. It's a very, very delicate balance because, like, when they're talking about, you know, hunger and things like that, while we don't have hard stats or whatnot per se, but say if you're, I don't know, you're in the middle of a gunfight, and suddenly now the game realizes that, you know, you're at a hungry state, just in the middle of the gunfight, and your stamina suddenly gets cut.
Or
you know,
maybe you're tired because you haven't taken a nap recently.
Or yeah, or maybe you can't run as fast because you really have to take a dump. I don't know, but the point is that you're in the middle of a gunfight, and suddenly your stomach is, you know, oh, I'm hungry, and half your stamina limitations go down, you know, and so what do? Whip out a Snickers bar and just start chowing down in the middle of combat, hoping to get that stamina back up. So it's a really delicate line that can affect a lot of different things. I don't mind the idea of stats being affected to a degree. I don't know how I feel yet about the idea of starvation or dying of thirst or things like that. And the other side of me is like, you know what? It makes sense because why else would you bring supplies with you on a long run for exploration? Why would you need to worry about food and things like that? That's why you have the ships like the Carrack. And you know, that's for the ultimate long-range exploration, carries all that cargo, and a lot of that cargo would probably be personal supplies to keep you going. If we're going to be dealing with eating and drinking schedules, they got to keep it within realistic limits, within realistic reason. I understand that time is going to be sped up, but they say like 4 times speed or something like that.
Something like that, and that's just so they can keep their time travel between planets, you know, not ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if they're going to do it, they really need to do it in a way where it's more like real life. Like, let's say you get on the game, and then, like, you know, you get out of your bed or whatever, you go and you get like a drink or something, and you have like a snack or whatever, and then you're good for the entire session, you know, like 4, 5, 6 hours before you even have to think about food again. And it's one of those things like, oh, we're gonna go out for a dogfight, oh well, you know, let me just, you know, grab something to snack on real quick, and it's just a simple, like, you know, you grab something, eat it. But the thing is, what Star Citizen has been showing and what they've been talking about, and how everything is all this grand show and everything has to look amazing. Do you want to, like in Empyrean, when you eat something, it's just num 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 num. It makes the eating sound, and that's it. You've now eaten something. Your little stat bar, your food has gone up. But in Star Citizen, I mean, what they do is they're like, oh look, you know, here he reaches over and he grabs a sandwich and he looks at it in his hands. You can look at it, look it around, you know, turn your hand, and then you know, bring it up to your face. You take a bite. Oh, now there's a bite of the sandwich.
PBR, peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, because there's such showmanship in their work, because I mean they're proud of what they're doing, and a lot of it looks amazing. But you can't have, you know, like, I'm gonna spend like 5 minutes eating an actual sandwich in the game, because that's boring. Most people don't want to spend 5 minutes in their game eating a sandwich.
Or yeah, say you're in a constellation and your character says, you know, I have to use the bathroom, and you get up, and at that moment you're on the toilet and someone starts attacking you. You run out with your pants around your ankles, like trying to get into the chair.
I mean, they can make it so you don't have to eat very much, or they can make it where you don't have to eat at all. But I mean, for me, I didn't back Star Citizen to play a survival game. I have other survival games, and frankly better ones than Star Citizen, that I can play if I want a survival game. I own Ark. I own Space Engineers. I have Empyrean. I have Interstellar Rift, as when we were playing recently on the channel. I mean, I have so many of these other, even not space games, but most of them are space games, that are either very survival based, light survival, or really not survival at all, that I can play. And that's not what I would say that's not what most people wanted when they said, "Oh, Star Citizen," which was, touted as, the successor to Wing Commander. You didn't, go to the bar and have a bunch of sandwiches and stuff before you went to a dogfight.
Yeah, one time you went to a bar was a cutscene or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I get people's opinions on both sides of the matter. Now, I'm not against the survival elements, but I really feel they need to be kept to like a minimum. I mean, they need to be kept to basics. Like your character eats so much a day or needs to eat so much a day just to maintain normal stats. And that's it. It doesn't, you don't need to sit down and animate the fork, eating the peas or whatever. It really needs to be one of those things that is kept to a bare minimum, because I can understand, like, if you're in a desert and you don't have any food, you don't have any water, and it gets harder and harder to travel. Fine, I'm down with that. Eventually, could you die if you don't eat or drink? Sure, fine. But it comes down to how much, how often. And I played a lot of survival games that basically all you do for the first part of the game is try to find more food to not die. And it is so frustrating, so annoying. And they're like, "Oh, here's your objective. This is what you have to do." I said, "I can't. I'm trying to find crab meat so I can not, die, because apparently I have to eat 4 crabs a minute. Otherwise, I just implode." And it gets to be too much. And they really need to be careful with this. And it goes back to another issue I'm talking about as well, because it's this weird disconnect between identities of the game. The 100th BlastCast, we talked about the pacing issues, and I gave you that example of how we've got these complex arcade systems coming in, or complex sim systems coming in, and simplistic arcade systems on top of it that are basically, they don't mesh. The pacing doesn't work. It sets the floor that doesn't allow one to function very well inside of the other. But then now you're going to add in survival elements, and survival elements are not an arcade mechanic. So what's the pacing we're looking for here? It almost gets to the point that, as much as I don't like the idea, if they don't pick an identity for this game pretty soon, they might as well just go ahead and split the servers. Like, here's your arcade, no permadeath respawn server, and then here's your full sim survival mode server with, sim pacing. And I'm not normally one who would advocate some sort of split in servers, because I don't care about the split player base, quote unquote, because of the fact that we're all in instances anyway for the most part. But they'd have to run like 2 separate sets of economies and things like that. That might get tedious or too hard for them to manage. 2 sets of storylines, 2 different worlds, so to speak. So at the same time, they seem to be delivering these promises to one group of people who are looking for X, and another group of people who are looking for Y. And to some degree, now with the survival mechanics, a group looking for Z. And if they don't become very clear in what they're selling, there's going to be a lot of problems for them down the road when it comes to actually launch time. And there's going to be a lot of people demanding refunds, and it's going to be ugly. And I'd rather see CIG be successful in what they're trying to do. So how are they gonna approach this? And it all comes down to a lot of these mixed messages. It's great. I remember Chris Roberts talking about how they wanted to add survival elements down the road. But I feel like we haven't even gotten to the road yet, and like they're already there. We're all still waiting to even just get onto a planet, and suddenly we're.
Another thing is, whenever I've heard Chris, now maybe this is just my opinion, but whenever I heard Chris talking about like, "Oh yeah, sure, you can go to shower," and he kind of chuckles, it always sounded to me like, "Yeah, sure, we can add that to the game, later," but it never sounded like it's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna have to make sure you take a shower before you're going to talk to someone, because otherwise, you get like they won't want to talk to you because you smell." He never once said that. He kind of laughed and joked, like, "Oh well, maybe people won't want to talk to you if you haven't had a shower." He's always said it very lighthearted and with a chuckle. And now when it's like, "Oh, we're gonna add these things to the game," it's like, I've never felt that was even gonna be an option.
Yeah, it's like while you're out there buying your weapons and ammo, you gotta pick up a 6-pack of toilet paper. Soap. Yeah, or whatever for the road.
Well, what kind of soap do you want? We got bar soap. We got
Origin.
Soap.
We got Anvil. We got Aegis soap.
I shouldn't have to worry about buying deodorant and freaking soap. Gimbled soap. So you have less effort is spent. So you have your higher stamina bar after you get out of the shower, because otherwise it's very vigorous, and and then you have to eat less.
Like,
that's not what I.
You did not use the sponge. You used the Brillo pad. You have taken damage.
Yeah, I mean, they can go stupidly deep with this, but I mean, why? What's the point? There's no purpose for adding these things in the space game about dogfighting and trading. I mean, who cares? I mean, half the time you're gonna be talking to someone through a computer screen, right? Oh yeah, I got an order coming in. Oh, cool, it's on landing pad 1. Come pick it up.
Yeah. You're gonna be talking to them that way. They're not gonna have smell-o-vision. I don't think they're really gonna care too much. Hey, I got a cargo crate. Ooh, I pick it up, but you stink, dude. So yeah, I mean, I as I said, there's positives and negatives to it. I like games from both genres. I'm gonna kind of wait and hold judgment until I see it, how it's implemented, and so I'm gonna kind of remain neutral. But they really gonna need to take feedback from players from this very, very seriously, and not just brush it off like some feedback they get on certain systems that I've mentioned a lot. But yeah, this really comes down to a really fine line, and I'm just worried that they're trying to do too much at once, and we still need to get flight working so that people enjoy it. And we're concerning ourselves with showering and using the bathroom and food. And the heart of the game is not survival. The heart of the game is not the FPS. The heart of the game is the spaceships and all the things that go around it. I mean, they're not selling LTI soap, okay? This is not.
Whoa! Hang on.
Yet. How
much is this LTI soap going to cost me? Is it $1? Maybe $5? Because I think I need some LTI soap.
Exactly. So I may just giving them an idea. We may be in trouble now.
Oh, goody! Now you have to pay per soap, real dollars.
Exactly.
Microtransaction soap.
Ooh, lockboxes.
Yeah, and some of them will have food in them. Some of them will have soap, and some of them will have tissue paper or toilet paper or whatever. And
they'll drop on a parachute and in the middle of an open area, and everyone can fight over it.
Yeah, and you have to go and battle through an arena of 64 other players to see who can get the lockbox with your bare hands. And some of the lockboxes have bullets, some of them have guns. You might just be throwing bullets at people. Anyway, I mean, we're getting a bit silly here, but yeah, I mean, they can make it stupidly complex, or they can make it where it's like, oh, well, yeah, you can eat if you want to. And I'm personally like, if they made it where it was very, very small bonuses, like, if you, like, let's say you went and had a hamburger, right? Let's say it gives you like 10% more stamina or something, right? Or maybe a little bit more stamina recovery, where it's kind of like, oh, well, if you're really super crazy hardcore and you want to, like, eat something before you go exploring on the planets, that's fine. I mean, that adds kind of a little bit of role playability, or maybe there's like
eat too many hamburgers, you get a heart attack in the captain's seat.
Well, I mean, you could also have it where it's like a stim pack or a med pack or something, and it'd just be like a little bit of additional stuff to add a little bit of flair to the game, but not in a way that's going to change it from a space sim to a sandbox survival game. Yeah,
or a standard stat-based MMO, because that could be a real threat here. Is that a lot of this is player skill based. Some's twitch, some hand-eye coordination. We just need to avoid getting stats in the game as much as possible. At least on a visible sense. I don't want to see a hunger bar at the bottom of my screen. Those kind of things, because that's really starting to feel like World of Warcraft with a few less buttons and a few more options. But anyway, down below, leave your comments about how you feel about this whole survival mechanics being introduced to the game. And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious to know what you think about them. As I said, I'm neutral on the subject. It doesn't really matter to me except how it's implemented when it comes down to it, and because I've seen the good and the bad. And I'm just curious to know, how you feel, what your concerns are, if you think they should just dump them entirely, or if you're kind of excited about it. There's all different possibilities. So, that's about everything for this week's BlastCast, guys. Just wanted to go ahead and put our thoughts out there about survival based on the fact that we play so many of them.
Yeah, I just really do.
Yeah, it's almost an obsession these days. So, anyway, guys, we will go ahead and see you on the next show, whether it's a BlastCast or a Citizens Corner. Oh, what was that?
Oh, wait.
Uh-oh.
I want to do one more thing.
Oh.
We might be doing a little mini series on Empyrean when the version 7.0 comes out. It's currently
on your
in
channel.
beta testing. Yeah, on my channel. Maybe on your channel. I don't know. It depends on how generous you're feeling. But yeah, may or may not do that. Just wanted to inform people that might be interested.
Yeah, that's true. Well, if you're interested in seeing that too on this channel, just let us know. You know, Lightning has his own channel. A lot of times we do Let's Plays, or we introduce a game to people we played over there to not kind of fill this channel up with a lot of things not Star Citizen related. Though eventually I do want to branch this channel out in that, you know, direction of expanding a bit more. Tried it a few times, hasn't really taken off, but down the road, who knows? But maybe even this.
There's a bug attacking my drink.
and on that survival mode note. As he stomps the bug for food and protein.
No, I want my drink unbugged. Bye, everybody.
Bye.